that means for the Lakers and Knicks in just a moment. But S.A., there was a moment in the game that we want to address.
That was LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about making sure that I mind what I say about his son.
Now, and before we get into it, my name is Fitz with FatherFlex.com. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Check out FatherFlex.com, premium apparel for fathers that want to stay healthy for their families. When I first watched this, when I first saw this, I'm going to be real. I was clapping. I was clapping that LeBron James has stood up for his son. And the reason I was happy is because we don't get to see that publicly as much as I think we should. We only hear about the bad black fathers. We only hear about the absent black fathers. We only hear about pretty much negativity coming out of the black community when it comes to black fatherhood. And if you know anything about me, if you know anything about my channel, one of the things that I talk about is fatherhood, parenting, marriage, health, wellness, and lifestyle. And so for me, my first reaction was positive. But let's see what he's going to say. Because, there's always another side to the story.
Can't repeat the words because they ain't suited for FCC airwaves. That's what he was doing. I thought long and hard about this over the last few hours because I had no intentions, Molly, of talking about this at all.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it was a one-on-one, I wouldn't say a conversation, but it was a one-on-one confrontation. But then I wake up and everybody from ESPN and my agent and everybody else were sending me that this thing had gone viral. And so ultimately it was unavoidable, and that is why I have to discuss it now. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I'm going to be real with you. When it comes to you being in the public eye, when it comes to entertainers, celebrities, actors, actresses, all of that stuff, one thing that we have to understand is that the general public does not view you the same as just a regular person. So for example, I see people on the internet all the time and they're like, people like Stephen A. Smith and other commentators, y'all are too hard for them. Get a life. Get a life. Why are y'all always talking about them? It's like, bruh, Stephen A. Smith is like a journalist or a sports analyst, and that's his job, is to cover the NBA. And so one of the things that I think is important is like, this is not a street situation. This is not a street situation where Stephen A. Smith is on the streets and LeBron James is on the streets and we're playing by the street code and, oh, you talked about my kids, so now I'm going to pull up on you. That's not how we're living. That's not how we're doing this. Understand, LeBron James is a multimillionaire. Stephen A. Smith is a multimillionaire. I think LeBron James is a billionaire. LeBron James' son, Bronny, is a millionaire. So these are millionaires. And one millionaire is talking about another millionaire's NBA playing game. Like they're talking about his skills. And so we have to put things in the proper context. And when he says that he wasn't talking to an NBA player, he was talking to a father, I think that what that means for me is LeBron James perhaps is not just looking at his son as an NBA player, but he's looking at it from the perspective of, I'm his father, I have to show up and show out. Now, whether that's going to harm Bronny James or help him, I don't know. I think it's going to harm him more than not. I'm still happy to see a good example of a father, but let's see what Stephen A. Smith got to say.
That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard. By all accounts, he's obviously a wonderful family man and a wonderful father who cares very, very deeply about his son. And based on some of the comments that he had heard, or shall I say, I think he thought he heard, he clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man. But that is not what he elected to do.
So this is important because one of the things that we have to realize is when LeBron James confronts Stephen A. Smith, he knows the cameras are going to be on him. He knows that people are going to be looking at what he's saying. And so it's very important right here. Like, was this really about Bronny? Was this about you solving it, or were you in your emotions? Did you see Stephen A. Smith? You got in your emotions. You wanted to confront him. Were you focused on a solution? Because me personally, if I'm in Stephen A. Smith's position, I'm going even harder on Bronny now. I'm going even harder on LeBron James now. You think you're going to pull up on me at an NBA basketball game and tell me what I can and can't say? That's like somebody telling LeBron James how he should and should not hoop. Like, I'm tired of, I get it. Like I said, I'm proud and happy to see a good example of a strong black father. But on the other hand, I also think part of being a strong black father is letting your kids fight their own battles. Letting your kids fight their own battles, especially because of the fact that Bronny James is already seen as someone who's only in the NBA because of his father, which, let's be real. And on top of that, when LeBron James goes around doing these things and confronting people at basketball games, I think it kind of sends that narrative that black people are ghetto. Black people are ghetto. This is the narrative. LeBron James confronts Stephen A. Smith, another black man, on TV in front of the whole world to see. It's like, I think it pushes that narrative that we're these over violent people, hyper aggressive people that always want the smoke, always want this, always want that. And it's just, for me, if I'm Stephen A. Smith, I'm going even harder. But I'm petty. Maybe Stephen A. ain't petty like me. I'm petty. Fitz petty. Let's see what's going on.
Instead, he elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. Ari Emanuel, the head of William Morris Endeavor, one of the agencies that represents me, along with Larry David, was sitting courtside. I was with them for the game. And he walked right up to me and he said what he had to say. And apparently he feels like I was slighting his son. Now let me tell you what I feel. What I would have said if we were in a different environment, because I was not going to engage in a confrontation at that particular moment in that setting. But if we had that conversation, I would have said to LeBron James, I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you, meaning you, LeBron James. I have nothing but the best wishes for Bronny James. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he flourishes into an NBA star. Usually in other sports, we see all-stars, and on occasion, we'll see their children become stars as well. That doesn't really happen with the NBA. I sincerely hope he's the exception. By all accounts, he's a wonderful kid. And I don't know anybody who roots against him, and it certainly isn't me. But in the same breath, at the time that we were talking about him, he was percolating to such a degree that the Bronny James stories had gone viral. And so we had to talk about it. And when I said the things that I said, I wasn't talking about Bronny James because my attitude is he's a rookie. It's going to take some time for him to get himself together. He'll be just fine, especially with J.J. Redick and the staff coaching him. I was talking about the position that he was put in by his dad. Because LeBron James has been on the record, and he has said, and I'll read the quote here. There was a quote that he gave in February of 2024.
Bringing the facts.
The work and results will ultimately do talking, no matter what the size. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care what mock drafts say. He just works, earned, not given, et cetera, et cetera. But he also had said that his son could play on the Lakers right now, and he was better than half the dudes in the NBA. In the aftermath of all of that,
Now, here's where I have to agree with Stephen A. Smith. You can't come around talking that talk, saying your son's better than half the NBA players, and putting a target on his back, and then your son show up and he's putting up the numbers he's putting up. He's not really playing at a NBA level caliber. You can't do that. Now, if your son is who you say he is, and you talking that talk, and he show up and he show out and he balling and hooping people up, that's one thing. But understand this, you know, when LeBron James came into the league, there were people comparing him to Kobe, people comparing him to Michael Jordan, and he did show up and show out, and people started saying, you know what? Maybe we hyped him up, but he's living up to those things. I think that LeBron James did what a lot of fathers do, and let's be real, especially within the black community, sports are worshipped. They're worshipped before everything. And it's every father's son. I don't want to say every, but it's a majority of father sons for their children to play sports. And I think Stephen A. Smith hit it on the head. LeBron James is operating as a father and not as an NBA player. He's operating as a father. And you would be a bad father to sit there and let somebody talk down on your kid or say things about your kid, or say things or not feel a sense of rage or whatever if someone is saying something that goes against your kid's dreams and your kid's goals and anything like that. I get it. We're fathers. We want to stand up for our children, but at the same time, you're putting a target on his back. You're making people want to go harder on him. You're bringing the criticism in. Here's how I would have handled it if I was LeBron James. And I know I'm not LeBron James. I don't have his money. I'm not in the NBA, et cetera, et cetera. Here's how I would have handled it as a father. Like let's talk about business. If I was passing my kid off a business and they were going to be the CEO, or they're going to hold an important position in a company I owned or whatever, I wouldn't go to the people that already work there, and I wouldn't say, my son, my daughter, they're better than half of the people that work here already. They can do what you do. What I would have said is little to nothing. I would have said little to nothing, and when I did speak, I would have said, he's going to come here, he's going to work hard, and the results will speak for themselves. And that's it. I would have left it at that. There's no need to compare him to other people. There's no need to say he's better than other players. There's no need for all of that. If he truly is, we'll see. We'll see.
he instructed everybody before the draft that y'all want me, draft Bronny. Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I'll do whatever it takes to play with my son for a year. It's not about the money at that point. My point months ago was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball, in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes with that for his son.
I agree.
And when he talked like that and what have you, anything that goes awry as it pertains to his son, there's going to be a microscopic eye, even more intensified, on Bronny James because of his dad. And that's when I was talking about, come on, man, this is the situation that you're putting him in. That's where I was coming from. I could be a bit more outspoken about it, but to be quite honest with you, to be in that moment, to have LeBron look at me the way that he did, for me to be a father of 2 daughters, for me to know what fathers, how much love fathers have for their children, and to hear what he had to say, it was all about his son. It was almost as if he was saying, you know, you and I, because he and I don't necessarily vibe, it's high and by, we keep it moving. Neither of us lose sleep over it, and it's been that way for years. But it was like he was saying, keep that between me and you. Almost as if he was thinking that anything that I said about Bronny was a result of him.
So I think we kind of got the gist of everything. I think we got the gist of everything. I really want to just point out that as a father, you know, it's tough. We're in these tough positions, and there's no right way to necessarily do things. There's certainly a lot of wrong ways. But at the end of the day, what I can say about this whole situation is that I I think LeBron James was genuinely standing up for his son. Whether his son deserves to be in the NBA is another question. Time will tell. We'll see about that. But what I do want to say to the fathers out there is this. You have to let your kid fail on their own. You have to let them fail on your own. And in these type of situations, I do think that LeBron James did more harm than he did good for his son's reputation. This is like if your kid's getting bullied at school and you show up and you try to fight the kid, or you try to do this and do that. They have to be able to fight their own battles. And ultimately, these sports analysts, these sports commentators, they say some crazy things sometimes about other players, and people just let it roll and they keep it moving. My question would be, would you be saying this if Bronny was an all-star, was a superstar? Would you be saying this type of stuff? Like, is this just because he's saying things about Bronny, or is it because some of the stuff might be true? Is there a lot of emotions there? Like, as a father, is this stuff keeping you up? Because here's what I'm saying. If my son or my daughter is a multimillionaire doing whatever they're doing in their life, you can say whatever about them. You can say whatever about them, and if I feel like they're fulfilled and they're living their dream and they're doing their best, I don't have time to address it. I don't care. Right? And so, for me, when I look at this situation and I analyze it, I think about what I would do in this situation. I think I would just be chill. I think I would stay calm. I think Stephen A. Smith, and here's another thing I see people talking about. LeBron James confronted Stephen A. Smith. He punked him. Stephen A. Smith was scared and all this other nonsense. They're at an NBA game. Nobody was going to do anything. Nobody was going to, they're at an NBA game. And, another thing is, we got to stop trying to hype up the black man versus black man thing. We got to stop trying to hype up these confrontations, if you want to call them that. Understand, at the end of the day, this is show business. I'm not saying LeBron James necessarily did it for show, but what I am saying is none of these dudes are about to start squaring off. None of them are about to start fighting. If Stephen A. Smith would have said, hey man, F you and your kid, LeBron James wouldn't have punched him in his face or nothing like that. He would have kept it moving. And honestly, I think that in this situation, LeBron James thought that he could bully Stephen A. Smith. I'm glad Stephen A. Smith stood his ground, didn't act overly emotional. And I'm glad that LeBron James was able to stand up for his kid in the way that he felt was sufficient. And so I'm not mad at this situation. I just thought it was a good opportunity to highlight, a black father doing something positive for his kid, or something, at least standing up for his kid. But also, I think Stephen A. Smith did a good job remaining calm and articulating his perspective and his side of things. So that's my thoughts. Let me know if I missed something in the comment section. Hit the like button for the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. Check out fatherflex.com. 20% off your first order. Premium apparel for fathers that want to be healthy for their family. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. See y'all in the next video. I'm out.